September 480 BCE. The Strait of Salamis, Greece. You're standing on the deck of a Greek warship. Everything you had is already lost. Your home is gone. Athens is burning. Your family is on the island behind you. Ahead of you, out on the open water, the largest fleet the world has ever seen moves toward you. Over 1,000 Persian warships, the full weight of an empire so vast it makes Greece look like a village. To them, this isn't a battle. It's the last step in the conquest of your country. At their center, Xerxes, King of Kings, watching from a throne constructed just to watch you die. Facing him, 370 Greek ships, outnumbered, divided, led by a man half of them don't even trust, Themistocles. By every rule of naval warfare, this should be over before it begins. Now watch what happens. In a few hours, this narrow strip of water will become the most consequential battlefield in the ancient world. What happens here won't just decide the fate of Greece, it will shatter the greatest empire on earth and produce the most decisive naval victory in all of human history. None of it should have been possible, and yet, it happened. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how they did it. One night before that battle, on the island of Salamis, the Greek war council gathers. Themistocles stands to speak. Before he can finish his first sentence, Adeimantus, the Corinthian commander, stops him.
You have no city left. You have no country. Why should anyone here listen to you?
The tent falls quiet.
You're right that my city is gone. But those 180 Athenian ships out there in the water, they are still very much here. And without them, you have no fleet. Without a fleet, your wall at Corinth is a wall around a grave.
He lets that land. Then he goes further. That tent is filled with admirals and generals from a dozen city-states, men who have spent generations fighting each other, now forced to share the same table. And Adeimantus just said out loud what half the room was thinking.
If this council retreats to Corinth, Athens takes its ships and leaves Greece entirely. We sail to Italy and build a new city there, and you can face Xerxes alone.
Because that's exactly what the Peloponnesian commanders want to do. They've already pulled their land forces back to Corinth and started building a wall across the isthmus. Now their fleet wants to follow. Retreat to safe waters. Let someone else deal with Xerxes. No one speaks. Every man in that tent knows Themistocles means it. Athens's 180 ships are half the fighting fleet. Without them, there is no alliance, there is no battle, there is only surrender. By the time he sits down, the retreat is off the table. Then Eurybiades, the Spartan nominated to lead the fleet, breaks the silence.
If not Corinth, then where?
Right here. This strait, 1 mile wide at its narrowest, enclosed on both sides. No room to spread out. No room to maneuver.
Their fleet outnumbers ours 2 to 1. What does the terrain change?
Everything. In open water, Persia is unbeatable. Their Phoenician squadrons are the finest sailors in the world. They use speed, space, and flanking maneuvers that we cannot match in open sea. They will tear us apart before we get close enough to fight.
The tent is listening now.
But in that strait, their numbers stop being a weapon. 1,000 ships in a 1-mile channel don't fight as a fleet. They crowd each other. The rear pushes into the front. Captains lose sight of their own line. Orders never arrive. And when it comes to ramming and boarding at close quarters, that is our fight, not theirs.
It's a good theory, but Persia has no reason to sail into that strait willingly.
No, they don't.
He lets the silence sit. Something is already forming behind his eyes, a plan he has no intention of sharing with anyone in that tent. That night, Themistocles slips out of the tent alone. He calls for a servant, a trusted man, his children's tutor, a Persian-speaking slave named Sikinus.
You're going to row to the Persian camp, and you're going to ask to speak to Xerxes. Tell him you carry a message from the Greek commander. Tell him the alliance is collapsing, that the Peloponnesians are planning to flee tonight, that by morning, half the fleet will be gone.
And if they don't believe me?
They will. Because it's exactly what Xerxes wants to hear.
Every word of that message is a lie. The Greeks are not fleeing. The alliance is not collapsing. Themistocles just spent the last hour making sure of it. But he knows how Xerxes thinks. A king who has burned Athens, killed Leonidas, and swept through Greece unopposed. He doesn't expect traps. He expects submission. Sikinus rose into the dark. Across the water, in the Persian camp at Phalerum, Xerxes is holding his own council. Around him, generals, fleet commanders, the leaders of every nation in his service. He goes around the room. Every commander says the same thing. Attack. The Greeks are outnumbered and divided. One blow at sea, and the war ends tonight. Then one voice disagrees. Artemisia, queen of Halicarnassus, the only female commander in the Persian fleet, and the only person in that tent willing to tell Xerxes what he doesn't want to hear.
You've already won. Athens is ash. Why risk everything on a battle you don't need to fight? March toward the Peloponnese, and the Greek alliance collapses on its own.
The tent goes quiet. She is right. Strategically, completely right. Xerxes listens. He respects her more than any other commander in his fleet. Then he ignores her. He wants it settled tonight. Then a messenger arrives from across the strait, a note from a Greek commander named Themistocles. A Persian officer reads it aloud.
The Greeks are terrified. The alliance is breaking apart. If Xerxes seals both exits to the strait right now, he can trap every Greek ship before dawn and end the war in a single night.
Xerxes reads it twice. It is exactly what he wanted to hear. He gives the order. The Persian fleet moves into the dark. Over 1,000 ships, silent, certain of victory. Nobody considers, not even for a moment, that it might be a lie. If you want early access to every episode and to support the channel, join the membership below. Back at Salamis before dawn, Themistocles gathers the Greek crews along the shoreline, marines, rowers, captains, soldiers from every allied city-state still willing to fight. Across the strait, Persian fires move through the darkness. Then Themistocles speaks.
Men of Greece, before us lies freedom. Behind us lie our homes, our families, our temples, and the graves of our fathers. Fight here in these narrow waters, and Greece survives. Board your ships. Choose the better fate.
The shoreline erupts, a roar spreading across Salamis, and one by one, the Greek crews begin boarding their triremes. By the time dawn breaks, the Persian fleet has been rowing all night, their crews exhausted, hours at the oars in complete darkness, waiting for a Greek evacuation that was never coming. They are tired, cramped, and already crowded into a strait that is tighter than any of their commanders expected. Then the sun rises. 370 Greek warships, in full battle formation, not fleeing, not scattering, waiting. The Greeks have spent the night organizing, 2 ranks deep, stretched across the strait from shore to shore. On the left, the Athenians, the largest contingent, 180 ships. On the right, the Aeginetans, the most aggressive fighters at sea. The smaller allied contingents packed into the center, best squadrons on both flanks, every ship positioned deliberately. Facing them, the Persian formation is already compromised by the narrow water. The Phoenicians, Persia's finest, on the right flank. The Ionian Greeks, pressed into Persian service, on the left. The remaining contingents crushed into the center, 3 ranks deep, each captain desperate to push forward and be seen. Above the strait, on the slopes of Mount Aigaleo, Xerxes takes his seat on the throne constructed just to watch this moment. Scribes beside him, the entire battle laid out below like a map. The Greeks hold their line, letting more Persian ships crowd deeper into the strait. Then, one Greek captain breaks formation. His ship lunges forward and rams the nearest Persian vessel. For a single breath, nobody moves. Then the entire Greek line charges. The moment that first Greek ram connects, the strait erupts. Both fleets surge forward, hundreds of bronze-tipped rams cutting through water. The sound is catastrophic, splintering wood, screaming oarsmen, the deep metallic crash of hull against hull at full speed. Oars from 100 ships tangling into each other. Men thrown into the water before the fighting even starts. The Persian front line hits the Greeks and stalls. Captains try to back up, but the second rank is already pushing forward, the third pushing into the second. There is nowhere to go. Persian ships are now crushing Persian ships. Oars snap, hulls scrape and split. Men crushed between their own vessels. Persia cannot deploy its numbers, the greatest fleet ever assembled, and only the front rank can actually fight. The Greeks hold their line. The Athenians on the left grind into the Phoenicians with brutal discipline. Ram, board, kill. Greek hoplites, fully armored, spear and shield, pour onto disabled Persian vessels and cut through lightly armed crews who have no answer for them. The Aeginetans on the right seal off any ship attempting to retreat south. The center doesn't move. Every Greek captain holds his position. On the Persian side, everything is falling apart. Persian sailors hitting the water and drowning, most of them cannot swim. The formation that entered the strait this morning is dissolving into a mass of panicking, leaderless ships with nowhere to go and no way to turn around. Panic spreads faster than any order ever could. Then, Xerxes watches something he will never forget. One of his commanders, Artemisia, queen of Halicarnassus, the woman who told him not to fight this battle, is being chased hard by an Athenian trireme. Her escape route is blocked by a friendly Persian ship. She has one option. She rams it, sinks it. Every man on board goes down. The Athenian captain assumes she must be a defector and breaks off the chase. Xerxes watches from his throne and says the only thing worth saying.
My men have become women, and my women, men!
By midday, the strait is unrecognizable. Wrecked hulls everywhere. The Persian fleet folding inward on itself. Xerxes stares down from his throne. This is not what victory looks like. By mid-afternoon, the Persian fleet breaks. What started as disorganization becomes full collapse. Ships turn and sail toward the harbor of Phalerum. But the Aeginetans are waiting at the southern exit, hitting every fleeing vessel in the flank as it tries to escape. There is no clean way out. The numbers tell the story. Persia loses somewhere between 200 and 300 ships in a single afternoon. Thousands of men drown. The Greek fleet loses 40. On the tiny island of Psytalea, where Xerxes had stationed 400 soldiers to finish off Greek survivors, Aristides lands with a force of hoplites and kills every man there. The last act of the battle. Cold, deliberate, total. The strait is silent by evening, wreckage as far as the eye can see. The largest navy in the world has been shattered in hours. And without the sea, Xerxes cannot move troops around the Greek defenses, cannot supply his army indefinitely, cannot finish what he came here to do. The invasion is not over, but it has just lost the one thing it cannot replace. Xerxes holds a final council. His general Mardonius speaks first.
The defeat at sea changes nothing. The land army is intact. The elite infantry untouched.
Xerxes agrees to give him 300,000 picked men so that he can finish the conquest in spring. But Xerxes doesn't stay. Fearing the Greeks will sail to the Hellespont and destroy the bridges, trapping his entire army in Europe, he withdraws to Asia with the bulk of his forces. Mardonius stays behind with the best soldiers Persia has. His orders? Finish the war next year. Salamis did not end the invasion, it reshaped it. Greece is still occupied. Persian soldiers still march on Greek soil. The war is very much alive. But the momentum has shifted. For the first time since Thermopylae, Greece believes it can win. Persia will make one final attempt to reclaim dominance, and it will happen on land. If this is the kind of history you enjoy, subscribe. Salamis broke the fleet, but Persia still has an army, a massive, battle-hardened, undefeated land force, wintering in Boeotia, waiting for spring. Mardonius is patient, experienced, and not yet beaten. One more campaign remains, one more army to face, one more impossible situation for a Greek alliance that has already survived everything Xerxes threw at it. The final confrontation will not happen at sea. It will happen on an open plain near a small city most people have never heard of, Plataea. If Salamis shattered the empire's fleet, Plataea would decide whether Persia could still win this war. Watch the Battle of Plataea next.